Hi, everybody. Welcome. So I'm Julia Vyse. I'm from Vizeum, Canada. I work out of the Vancouver office, but I work remotely from Ladysmith. I moved there just very, very recently, just in September. It's very, very new for me. I'm getting used to island life. I'm not sure I'm used to it yet, but it's really, really beautiful, and I really, really love it here. A little bit more about me. I've been working in performance media since 2008, which is roughly like most of my career. And my role at Vizeum is to bring performance media together with our broadcast and traditional media. So how do all of these different pieces of media work together? I like to get really, really tactical. So I think today we've heard a lot of really great big ideas about thought leadership and about authenticity and about building an authentic brand. I like to get really, really tactical, so I want to give you some tips and tricks, things that you can use in your organization right now after this talk. And then at the end, I'm going to show you a case study on what I did to actually show how to put some of these things into motion. And yes, spoiler alert, it is about the Beyond Meat, the launch of Beyond Meat in Canada. So does that sound good to everybody? Is everybody ready? I got you right after our break. We're all in like food coma. So one of the reasons I love performance media and why I've done it for so long is that I love data. I love learning about people and understanding what people care about. And this type of media can actually bring data in as it brings your message out to your audiences. So I happen to love that about all of these different platforms. And spoiler alert, every single one of these performance media channels is a video media channel. I want to get away from the idea of thinking a video is only a YouTube strategy or only a user-generated strategy. Video is everywhere, and most of the time people are actually watching videos on screens about this size. So this is a very different way of thinking about making videos, making a video strategy than it would have been even 10 years ago when just about everybody had a TV and expected TVs to be the main way that we saw videos in cinema. So I want to start with how video can actually impact your business. A lot of people might not necessarily think about video as the first thing you want to do unless you have a cool, awesome product update. News and investor updates are really, really powerful. These are both from LinkedIn, from the Coca-Cola company. They're relatively good at business. And using LinkedIn video to actually engage investors and people who aren't necessarily ready to go out and buy a Coke is a really interesting way of continuing to build their brand. You can think about explainers and promotions. This is very, very powerful, particularly in the world of real estate. I think that's a pretty good topic out here, especially when you have a transaction that is relatively complex. So it won't fit in a regular display ad. It won't necessarily fit in something that you're used to doing to get messages out there, but a video can really help explain relatively complex theories. You can use it for case studies. You can use it to actually talk about some of the great work that you've already done, and you can use to tell a story. So we've heard about authenticity. We've heard about some of the things that we want to share with our customers and hopefully our partners. Video is a perfect way to do that. And you can use it for a whole lot more too. You can talk about introducing new leadership and new partners. You can highlight the good that you're doing in the world, and you can talk about what you stand for. So I would encourage everybody to think about video. And in that spirit, because I care about video and I want everybody to start using it a whole lot more because we're all walking around with little screens. I happen to walk around with 2 little screens all the time. I want to give you some tips that you can definitely use for editing video as an organization. Start with shooting somewhere well lit. I'm going to assume that not everybody has the funds or the wherewithal to actually hire some of the incredible film industry people that we have out here. So even if you're shooting on something a little bit less professional, or if you're just shooting an update on your phone, make sure that the room around you is well lit. You can edit your video later to lighten everything up, but you're going to get a lot of distortion and a whole lot of noise. Okay? The second would be to hold your phone or a camera on a stable surface. Either get a teeny tiny little tripod or just hold your phone like this. If you're just shooting a little message to your employees, or if you're getting ready to introduce your podcast, or getting ready to introduce people to the idea that you're getting to, make sure that you're holding something stable. You can get away with a little bit because your phone isn't stable as you're holding it. You see your hands are going to move a little bit, but you want to make sure that it's as stable as possible. Last, I'd say if you can get an external mic, if your budget constrains you to, do I buy a new camera and some equipment versus do I buy some microphones? The sound is going to change whether or not it's a professional video or whether it's a phone video, so I would start there. And then finally, I would say edit your videos for mobile, which is a whole entire category unto itself. So, tips and tricks for editing for mobile. Are you ready? This is for everyone who is not necessarily a professional videographer, but who is ready to use video on a regular basis. So fast cuts and pacing. This is how we would usually think about framing up a video. It's really wide. You tend to get a slow zoom towards the bride. And on a phone, if you're trying to watch this, it's really, really lovely and very, very boring. This is not necessarily something that we want for a phone video. What we want instead is to use fast cuts to actually emphasize dialogue, and we want to give viewers everything that you need out of a conversation. So I've used SNL as an example right here. They're really, really good at editing for mobile. They basically know that people, first, are not really watching on TVs anymore. Second, they're not watching on Saturday night. They're watching it Monday morning or probably Monday afternoon when they're a little bit bored at work. And they have one situation. They have a stage where everybody is looking at them. They've got a couple of cameras and not much else. So not a lot of movement, not a lot of things that can engage your audience. It's basically a conversation, and we hope that that conversation is funny. So what do? When someone is speaking, they cut into them. When they're talking about something, they cut to the thing that they're talking about. And that emphasizes not only the humor, but ultimately what everything is about. So when you're looking for likes, you're looking for comments, you're looking for that reach and engagement, think about how you're cutting and how fast everything goes. If it feels like it's too fast, it's probably still not fast enough, okay? Close cropping, okay. So on a big screen like this, I'm way over here, everybody way in the back, you're probably really liking that top line, aren't you? You can see the main character, she's framed up nicely, she's wearing a red sweater, then you can see the product being used on her face, and then finally this one, totally obeying the rule of thirds, we're seeing everything that we need to see. Absolutely terrible on a phone. This is way too far out, we can't tell what is going on, and your product is gonna get a little bit lost. So here, way up here where I'm standing, and maybe in the first row, this first close-up feels way too close. It doesn't feel necessarily like we like it to feel as we're used to making videos. Next, we have the product, very, very, very close. We're counting every single pore that we can see. And then finally, we have a happy, smiling face. If it feels too close on a screen like this, it's probably exactly right. And you can look at basically anywhere on YouTube for beauty vloggers to see how this works. Okay, we're holding our phones this far away from our faces, so we have to get really, really close and really intimate. This is another example, a little bit lighter, that the good people at Klondike used. So we can see at the top, again, you're probably really liking the top bar if you're way in the back. You can see the Klondike bar, you can see the rocket ship, you can see all the other candy bars that it's talking to. Then you can see the other candy bars saying something back to him, and then finally the two people having a discussion. Terrible, terrible on a phone. It gets really, really muddy, really, really lost. You can't tell what's going on. Everything is roughly the same height. What am I even looking at? All of it even has a pink background. Here in the edit, for mobile, you've got your Klondike, and he's saying something to you. I assume it's a he. What do I know? You've got your mint chocolate. She's saying something back to him. Again, I assume it's a she. What do I know? And then finally, you have the person having a conversation, which will then cut to the other person saying something back to her. So it feels more intimate. It feels much, much, much closer up, but it makes more sense on a screen this size and this far away from your face. Okay? Text for inflection. Okay, we're all gonna have conversations like this. Some of us are the client, some of us are the agency. All of us wanna have our branding over and over and over again as soon as possible. We definitely want the text against white so it's readable. That text is not readable against white on a screen this big. Your eye is going to the product, which it should go to. You're reading something underneath on a white background, you're squinting, you're trying to figure out what it's trying to say, does not make sense. So on a screen this size, it might not be very pleasant to see something translucent over a couple of different colors, the red and the green and the brown. But ultimately on a phone, this is exactly what we want to see. We want to use overlays effectively. Finally, in general, build for teeny tiny mobile screens. Start with that first, then edit out if you're going to be doing something on television, if you're going to be doing something with cinema. Start here. I want to see what you're doing here with the text on the far, far right, not in the middle, okay? And ultimately, rather than trying to remember all of these fussy little details, it's a really good idea to just preview everything that you're doing on your phone. Make a video, see if it works, get everybody happy with it, then preview it on a phone to see how it actually comes across. Make sense? All right. So I just gave you some tips and tricks, so hopefully I've earned my supper a little bit. Now I can talk about some of the more fun stuff. We've talked about making a video. Now, how do we think about audiences for your videos? You will find that our audience for video is eerily similar to our audience for just about everything else. So we've got our search audiences. This is marketing gold. People actually speak into their phones, okay Google, or as I like to yell on my podcast, okay Alexa. Everybody's Alexa turns on. What is the question that I have an answer to, right? People are telling you what they want. You can then answer that question. This is ultimately what we want in marketing. Next, we have demographics and behaviors. All of your social data can tell you this. If you're on Pinterest, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, I don't care which one it is, whatever channel makes the most sense to you, will give you back demographics and social behaviors for people engaging with your content, okay? And then finally, you have your first party. First party is essentially your data. So those are your email lists that we've been talking about building. These are people who have used certain types of coupons. These are people who want to hear from you, who have given you a specific piece of data. And your negatives, of course, are very, very important. You don't want to appear everywhere. You definitely want to make sure you're not matching up for things that are not brand safe. So always make sure you have your negative keywords, negative placements organized. So now that we know roughly what types of audiences we might have, we can apply them for different channels. And this is quite often what happens, especially when we're just starting out with our marketing strategy. So we get our search going, we get our organic traffic coming in, we get our social traffic going, we've got our display, and we realize that we can put remarketing on there. You can actually put a quick little remarketing tag, so someone decided to visit Marketing Connect but didn't necessarily sign up to attend immediately. I have no idea why someone would do such a thing, but that's possible. And we realize that remarketing helps. Sometimes people need a little bit of a reminder. Well, inevitably, because remarketing works on so many different platforms, you can end up with all kinds of noise everywhere, remarketing tags all over everything, all kinds of overlap, and a very unsatisfied customer being chased around the internet with message after message after message when you have done all this work that won't actually result in anything. So this is not very coherent, not very helpful, and ultimately doesn't make our customers very happy. So I would like to bring a little bit more coherence to the strategy that we're talking about. And I would like to give you a secret weapon that I like to call pre-marketing. Pre-marketing multiplies where remarketing can amplify. What I mean by that is that remarketing can simply take a message that someone has already seen and amplify it a little bit so that they come back and actually take the action that we're hoping that they take. Pre-marketing will take someone who has taken that action, go out and find more people who are similar to that person. They will actually see a person who fits the profile of someone who purchased, signed up for your webinar, did whatever it is that you're hoping that they do, and actually bring more people in based on that platform. It's very, very powerful, and we want to make sure it happens. When Google launched it, calling it similar audiences, I was very, very annoyed that they didn't call it pre-marketing because they called retargeting remarketing. So I just called it that myself. So now we've got a structure. We want to make similar audiences if you happen to be using Google. We want to be using lookalike audiences if you happen to be using Facebook and Instagram. And we want to be using matched audiences if you're using LinkedIn. I hope everyone in this room is using LinkedIn somehow. This goes everywhere. You can use this on just about every platform that's out there because almost all of them have a user base that they can help match up. So if we've all run into a scenario where no matter what our budget is, it's not enough for what we want to do, add on a similar audience and bring in more people. This is very, very helpful, especially when you're just starting out. Okay, so now you want to look at the entire ecosystem. We've got our marketing setup. We've got our remarketing setup for those helpful little reminders. Then we have our pre-marketing setup to go and find new people, not being reminded of it because they haven't been exposed to the message. Got our existing customers excluded, and then we're going to start building on all of the ecosystem that we have. Okay? So when you build a systematic approach, this prevents all of that overlap I was talking about. And what I want for everyone in this room to avoid is to be that person who has put a remarketing tag on Amazon with that little Amazon case that follows you around all over the internet, even though you've already bought it. Christmas season is over. I know we all just had that experience. I want everyone to be able to exclude everywhere so you don't end up getting followed around. So I'm going to start with cross-channel remarketing. And I'm gonna give it to you with a way of not having to purchase something giant like the Google Marketing Platform. They're a really, really good product, but a little bit pricey. So we'll start with display to search. We start with a display message. Someone gets exposed to Marketing Connect. They think it's a great idea. They probably get to the website, have a look, but they don't necessarily sign up. Again, who? You can then tag them and send them a search message. So when they're Googling conferences, when they're Googling events, when they're Googling learning and onboarding, they'll actually see another message for Marketing Connect, and you can get them to sign up. This is all within the Google Ads platform. You don't need to buy extra software to do this. You don't need extra technology to do it. You can just set it up within Google Ads. Okay. The next one, these are both Google products, but they're not necessarily connected together. So YouTube, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. So people who see videos on YouTube, specifically your videos or videos that you care about on YouTube, you can put them into a user list of people who viewed something, then hit them again with search if they happen to have seen the video but not necessarily visited your website, then boom, get them to where you need them to be. In order to do this, you have to link your YouTube channel to Google Ads. So unlike the last example I gave you, it's not all built into the same shell, but it is still something that's relatively easy to do. For types of YouTube audiences, this is really, really effective. And again, I know, video, I want you to be using lots of video. People who viewed any video, people who viewed videos as ads, people who subscribed, people who liked certain videos, this is a lot, and this works for a lot of different tactics. Some of you might be trying to build up your YouTube audience. Some of you might be trying to get people to particular pages to take a certain action. Some of you might just be getting started and not necessarily have the budget that you need to harmonize everything. So I want you to start thinking about all of these different things, not as suddenly do everything, but lots and lots of options are available to you, and it's only by linking these accounts together. Not buying the Google Marketing Platform, even though they're an excellent product, and not necessarily buying a huge, huge CRM software that takes a lot of investment and onboarding to do. All right. You can also connect other accounts. Again, this is still in the Google ecosystem. I hope that you're connecting your Google My Business accounts for all of your location extensions. I hope you're connecting Google Analytics. It's free, and everyone should be looking at their website analytics as soon as possible. So if you haven't, please get started. I'm excited for you to get going. Let's look at something outside of Google, which essentially owns everything, but it doesn't own LinkedIn and it doesn't own Facebook. LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, Facebook is owned by Facebook. So if you're starting on LinkedIn, you're inviting people to an event, you're inviting people to take a particular action, maybe just to learn about you and your organization. You get them to their page, they don't necessarily convert, but they're definitely interested. They would like to learn more, but they haven't gone to that last step. Just about everybody right around this time of the afternoon get a little bit bored and probably open their Facebook at work. Don't worry, I won't tell your boss, it's fine. And they'll start scrolling around and looking at things. It may also be Instagram. You can get them from Facebook back to that page and remind them to sign up. Okay? Is everybody comfortable with UTMs? Can I just use that piece of jargon? Yes, no? Total so? Okay. So a UTM is a very simple piece of code. It's self-built. Everyone in this room can do it. You add it to your URLs. So when you get someone to a particular page from LinkedIn, you've got your sponsored post going, you've got your little in-mail going. When someone clicks on that page, your analytics will tell you, oh, this person got to that page based on this particular ad. Okay? It's added to your URL, and in this example, I'm giving you the source equals LinkedIn because that's where the traffic is coming from. I've got my campaign name and my content. Then I go into Facebook, but that source is for LinkedIn, remember? I'm going into Facebook, I'm building an audience, and in this case, I'm using the Facebook pixel, hopefully everyone has that on their website, to actually make a highly targeted custom audience. So over here, I'm looking at people who visited specific web pages, and you can see that my UTM is in there. So rather than having to say, okay, dear HubSpot, tell me all of the traffic I got from LinkedIn from such and such date to such and such date, and please send them a particular email. Instead, I can just run an ad on Facebook as I usually would, but when I'm doing my audiences, instead of doing my audiences based on interest and based on all of these different behaviors, I can say, I want people who came to this particular page but did not sign up. Much, much cleaner. And then finally, I can also do source equals LinkedIn. So let's pretend I've got more than one LinkedIn post and I don't necessarily want to look at individual ad by ad traffic. You can expand it out and just say anyone who got here and didn't sign up, but they came from LinkedIn, now I can target them on Facebook. So in pre-marketing, remember I mentioned this before, it's your secret weapon. We've set up a case where we've got some investment going into LinkedIn to tell people about what we're doing. Then we've got a little bit of investment going to Facebook. Hopefully that's part of your brand building, it's part of your activities anyway. And we're getting all of them together to get people to that final stage. Now the final stage, or we'll say the next stage of phase 2, would be taking the people who actually did sign up. Facebook can now see that. So you can get them to go out and find lookalikes of people who signed up for your event. Do you see how that works? So we've got our main cross-channel marketing funnel, and then we're using pre-marketing to go out and get more people and multiply that volume. Okay? So how we're doing this, what I'd like you to do is start with a sort of a regular audience building strategy. My hope is that lots of people are delving into audience research already, looking at people who like your business, looking at people who like your pages and like what you're doing, but also keep testing on different platforms. Whatever platform is currently performing for you or perhaps isn't performing for you, look into what questions you want answered. Keep asking those questions and testing. Build out an evergreen audience build and get your promo messages to those people who have seen the evergreen. So rather than spreading your promo out everywhere, spread it out to people who have been exposed to that first message, and then use pre-marketing to go and get more people. Make sense? Much, much cleaner, less overlap, and less chaos than we saw in the first slides. Okay, so those are a whole bunch of tactics. I just hit you with a lot. Don't worry, I'll be around to answer questions. How to do videos for mobile, and then how to think about a video audience strategy. Are we ready for a case study? Okay, now I get to talk about Beyond Meat a little bit. So I was very, very lucky to be on the team that helped launch Beyond Meat in Canada. I was very, very proud. This was something that was driven by A&W. They are absolutely a thought leader in the space, and to me, they're a game changer. And they started with this knowledge that fast food veggie burgers have a terrible reputation, and rightly so. I don't know why they've been like this for so long, but obviously there was a gap in the market. A&W knew that people were more and more interested in reducing how they eat meat and when they eat meat, but that QSRs didn't necessarily offer it as something that you could just easily order. So you could choose to do like a Meatless Monday. You could, if you're really, really into it, try to go vegan, but man, like suddenly your restaurant options tend to diminish, especially outside of this province. So this is an opportunity that we can actually change A&W and show that they are a brand that actually does offer some of these things that people are looking for, but also tells basically everyone else in Canada that this should be an option. This should be something that people are doing, and why don't we? Why don't we indeed? To make sure that we were successful, we set everyone up for success from the start. So we briefed everyone on time, everybody. So in the room were us, the media agency, the creative agency, the PR agency, obviously operations, like everybody had to be involved. This wasn't something that you could just sort of run out of marketing and leave it there. Next, we had to agree on what we were going to measure. So we knew that there's all kinds of different ways to measure success. For a restaurant, it's how many people actually come through the door and order something. TV is really hard to measure that way. You can't sort of measure a TV ad straight into a door. So we knew that we wanted to look at video views and we wanted to look at engagement. We know that even though it's the right approach, veganism and meatless, plant-based, I should say, options are still fairly controversial. You're never going to believe this, guys. There are trolls on the internet. So we knew that we wanted to look at key metrics of how people engaged and what types of comments they were giving us, as well as what the sales were going to be. Okay? And then finally, we took on feedback. So if we had feedback, we made sure that everyone was just radically open. Even if we thought we had a fantastic idea, if somebody else came back and had feedback that we hadn't thought of, we have to take that on. We could not be ego-driven about this. We had to come up with the strongest approach possible. Okay, so for 3 video audiences, we're thinking about burgers, right? We're thinking about who doesn't love a juicy, delicious burger, plant-based or otherwise. So start with burger lovers. This is me, okay? We really like just a convenient, tasty, delicious burger. I can show this ad to anybody in this audience and just say we have a new product and we're off to the races. These are people who happen to like the products we have, so there's a good chance I can get them into the restaurant to try the new burger that we have. Then we have Whole Foodies. They respect ethically sourced food, so this feels like it's in their wheelhouse, but maybe a little bit of extra messaging. And then we have Planeteers. I'm going to talk about these three. So typical fast food customer, again, me, we care about cost, convenience, taste. Boom, very simple. Whole Foodies, this is turning it on its head, you guys. This is me as a marketer trying to say, oh, you're a fast food purchaser, hopefully, who doesn't care about convenience or cost. Like, what is that about? So I want to be talking about organic. I want to be talking about hormones and preservatives. I want to be talking about the conditions in which animals are raised. All of these different things fit with the launch of the plant-based Beyond Burger. Okay, now Planeteers. You guys have some sympathy for me, okay? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Not important to them at all, taste or cost. It's a fast food. It's a fast food campaign. How do I deal with this? They really, really care about waste reduction. So we have our reusable dishware, we have waste diverted from landfill, we have our very iconic frosty glasses, okay? They care about energy efficiency and like LEED certified buildings, which A&W does have. And they care about sustainability like carbon footprint offsetting. A&W absolutely espouses all of these values. They build it into their business, but that's not something I can put in a message about coming and trying a new burger. So this is unlike any kind of audience targeting I've ever had to do. So here's what we did. We start with the Whole Foodies and the burger lovers. We're going to try and get them into the stores to try a new burger. For the Planeteers, we're sharing affinities, not interests. Is everybody comfortable with that term, affinities, not interests? All right, I'm going to pick you up. Probably you and I like the new Harry Styles album, hopefully. That doesn't necessarily mean we like the same audiences, but it's worth a shot because I don't know, right? So affinity audience versus interest audience. So we call that a test and we decide that it is unproven. We're not sure how many of the Planeteers are actually going to come into the restaurant, but we're not going to exclude them. Make sense? Okay. So normally, we now have our audience map profiled out, and we have to start building them in these different platforms that we're going to use. So normally you would start with like who's visiting your website and who already likes your Facebook page. Maybe you have an app, so you'd be looking at mobile app users. Then maybe, of course, you'd be looking at store visits. I didn't have any of these at all. Honestly, when was the last time you went to a website before you decided to go buy a burger? Anybody? Did you stop on the way? The mobile app is fantastic. I hope everybody has downloaded it. It's better than all of the other QSR mobile apps, but it wasn't launched at the time that we were doing this campaign, so that was out. And then store visits. We could not map out store visits back to our existing customers. This would only be something we could do going forward. So I'm adrift. I have a plan, but I don't have a way to execute the plan. So what am I going to do? I have to get creative with all of my video pre-marketing. In Google, I started building audiences to use through the campaign, and I decided I would learn from all the different phases. And I'll take you through those phases. We introduced, we reminded, and then we invited people into the store. In Facebook, we built and tested a lot of potential audiences, like a lot of them. Then I wanted to learn from them, reach lookalikes, and then of course track to restaurant visits in both cases. Make sense? So we're measuring everything that we're doing as we're learning. So for Google, I'm looking at search. I'm starting with brand and generic keywords because during the PR phase, when we first had a few inklings here and there in the news, we knew that Canadians would be curious, so they wanted to ask about like A&W Beyond Meat Burger. What is this? We wanted to make sure that we were answering the question and not anybody else, particularly not anyone who has, shall we say, negative opinions about plant-based alternatives. Next, we layered in other category keywords. So other category would be things like best veggie burger. It doesn't talk about A&W or Beyond, but it's definitely the answer to the question this person has. We have locations, hours of operations, all of these meat and potatoes types keywords. And then finally, we learn which ones are generating the most clicks and the most visits to their restaurant, and we go from there. Okay. In Facebook, of course, Facebook is not keyword driven. People don't speak into Facebook saying, hey, Facebook, I want this. So we have to do something else. So I built a lot of audiences to test, a lot of audiences for testing. I did it per region, which was very time consuming, and then I built lookalikes from our key success metrics. So I built lookalikes based on video views, so people looking at the whole video to 100% rather than here's a tip, 3-second video, 1, 2, 3, and that counts as a view. It's not a view. Nobody's scrolling. People are just scrolling through this. So I'm looking at 100% of the video being viewed or people going to a store, and I'm going out with my pre-marketing to get lookalikes of those people. Okay? So this is what it looks like in the world. We start off with a restaurant review, kindly provided from the Toronto Star. A lot of people seem to really like it. And then people who saw that and had a positive reaction, we sent out videos like this. These are real people, these are not paid actors. We held the launch at a burger event in Toronto, and we actually filmed people trying it for the first time and being very, very surprised and very, very happy with how good it tasted. And then later on, we got permission to actually use them in the commercial. So this is absolutely the key way to go. It's a fully authentic strategy because on the one hand, we went out with a restaurant review. This is not like a paid PR, like, look how good this burger is. This is a restaurant reviewer actually eating a fast food burger, followed by real people at an event trying the burger for the first time and deciding that it was definitely for them. Only then, after I can see engagements from here and engagements from here, can I actually send people the get directions message and get them out into our restaurants to try the burger everywhere. So how did we do? Pretty good, I think. We actually, on Facebook, doubled the amount of average video watch time. This is really, really disheartening to creatives because most people only watch about 15 seconds of a 6-second video. How disheartening is that, you guys? We press on. Doubling it is a key behavior for what you're looking for when you're launching a new product. You want people to be stopping. You want thumb-stopping action. People are like, wait a minute, what is this? And we're actually able to do that. In the Google space, usually the entire account, no matter what we're talking about, gets about 7,300 store visits a month. This is across Canada, okay? So just keep that in mind. So most of the time, on average, that's what we would get. In just this 3-week period, we got 36,000 restaurant visits. So we're pretty sure that we're fairly successful in inviting people to come in and actually try the new product. Brand recall peaked at 62%. This is very, very helpful for any of your brand lift studies that you're doing out there, especially if you're having more than one type of media. So if you're going out with a little bit of radio, going out with a little bit of TV on top of that, you want to make sure brand recall is being measured. Same store guest counts were up. And when you take all of Google and Facebook together, we got 80,000 store visits just from our new audiences. So I would call that a win. And finally, we actually were able, I feel like I've said finally like 7 times already. A final actually will come, don't worry. We were actually able to create a trend in national search activity and change people's behavior. So we can see behavior changing with people going into the stores and ordering the burger. That's pretty well established. But we can also see outside of the restaurant space, people are Googling something that did not exist. This was not in Canada. You could get it at the grocery store, select restaurants only. This was not like a household name in Canada, and it is now. So we're pretty proud of that. So where we started with was first-party self-declared data. Remember, we've got our burger lovers, our Whole Foodies, and our Planeteers. We had not always interest-based audiences. It's not particularly helpful for marketing and for going out to find more people. We had conversions that were super difficult to measure, no web activity, no app activity to speak of. Nothing is actually being fed back to the marketing side of the business. We can only look at sales and guest counts. We had no existing customer list. I'm sort of glad about that because I don't want to give out my email when I go buy a burger. I don't think that's necessary. Really, we can just leave that alone. And we had a lot of audiences that were not really related directly to the product, even if they already liked us. What we ended up with was behavior-based, algorithmic, simplified audience strategy based on video views, store visits, and lookalike store visits. So I would call this a big win because we were able to harmonize a whole lot of our data. a systematic approach that we took in this case helped us go beyond the launch. I'm happy to say that we didn't just finish the Beyond Meat promo and then just stop doing whatever we were doing, right? You can, once you prove it out in an LTO like this, you can actually take it out to the rest of the year. So now we've got video views and store visits. We can look at videos seen as an ad. We can make lookalike audiences of searches and video views. And we can actually look for people who have searched for burgers near me. And we can start looking for data on all of your audience data everywhere. So I'm going to share a few places that some of you might be able to look at right now. Well, maybe not right now. When we're done with the conference, please don't take out your phones right now. So when we look at people who are looking at our YouTube ads, obviously when an ad goes out on YouTube, lots and lots of people will see it. But they're not just the YouTube audience of people who saw our ad. They're shoppers, they're sports fans, they're hearth and home, they're gamers, they're musicians. This is a very, very differentiated type of audience. And this is an audience segment I can actually test elsewhere. So I might be able to say, oh, all of YouTube, you can't really test that on Facebook or test that on Snapchat. You can test music lovers. You can test gamers. You can take the thematic approaches you see on one platform and apply them to another. Very, very important. If your team is lean and you don't necessarily have a budget to go everywhere, all of your data can already live in the marketing that you're doing, okay? So mine it as much as you can. You can also look at existing data from different platforms such as Facebook, where you've got your different LTOs. How do people think about Free Root Beer Day? Always think about it with anticipation and then disappointment when it's over, because I like root beer. Video viewers for other types of LTOs. So perhaps, when we do the cod burger, that wouldn't necessarily mesh with people who want a beef burger, but that's a video audience in and of itself, right? And we can also start thinking about app users, particularly now that the app is out and available in the world. And then we've got search. Always think about people who are looking for your products and locations. A breakfast search is not the same as a coffee search, although they're often done together. It's not the same as a beef burger search, okay? We can look at our YouTube viewers, and we can pull that into search if we need to. And we can do our customer list exclusion. So perhaps people who've already used one coupon, if it's one coupon per one person, you can exclude that from your search marketing and not spend money getting someone who's not eligible for what you're offering, okay? So what A&W got was a very successful launch of a brand new product that is now a regular menu item, and quite frankly, now I want one after we've been talking about it this long. But they also got new audience data and a new systematic approach as to how to manage their audiences and upcoming LTOs. So I'm pretty happy with that. So what I would ask for all of you to start doing is start looking at your goals, your audience profiles, and start building your audiences. Even if you're not necessarily ready to go to market with something right this second, start looking at who's looking at your business and why people like you, okay? Next, I would say start linking up your platforms. Again, don't wait to do this till just before your promo is ready. Link up your platforms now, get those audiences populating, all right? And then get curious. Start looking at all of the different ways that you connect with people and that people want to connect with you, and start thinking about what you can learn about them based on what you're already putting out there. And then, as I said, and I will continue saying forever, build your negatives. And that's it. I just threw a whole lot at you, so I assume that there's a question or two. No? We all have like a stunned look. Oh, I see someone over there, and I see someone over there.
Where was it? Hi. So you mentioned tracking store visits a few times,
Yeah.
and I'm just curious, for a company like A&W where you don't have the customer info to re-upload like as an offline conversion and
Yeah.
attribute that to your ads, how that's tracked?
Yeah, great question. So in our case, we use Google and Facebook data, and I'm probably about to scare you. Google can actually measure store visits if you upload all of your location data to them. They will anonymize it, so I can't track, say, you going to a particular location, but I can say that within a certain period of time, say 30 days, people who clicked on an ad and then went into a store came in this amount. So I can start there. With Facebook, because Facebook doesn't own a map product, Google has Google Maps, we all love it. Facebook doesn't, so they can get you right up to your nose to the door. And essentially, it's very unlikely that you get your nose to the door of an A&W and then you don't go in to buy something, so we take it that way. For us to make sure that we were measuring everything properly, I can look at store visits as a media metric, and that's really, really helpful from a directional standpoint. But ultimately, the proof is in sales and guest counts. So very important to keep those in balance. Your business objectives are about your sales and people interacting with your business. Media objectives, because I can't track sales back, and I don't want to. I don't want to link up the POS system across Canada to all of our marketing. So we're using it as a directional. So we're using the Google and Facebook versions of this. For local businesses that don't necessarily have this available, there are things you can do. You can get beacons, you can get Wi-Fi tracking. There's all kinds of ways to do it. Just make sure that you're working with a partner that abides by all privacy regulations. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you think that YouTube will remain as a main video contributor online when there's the adpocalypse going on with YouTubers, where they're getting less revenue for their videos?
The adpocalypse, I love that. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to stay the main contributor. I know that Stadia is coming out. Twitch, which is one of Amazon's products, is already starting to eat their lunch in terms of regularized gaming content, so that's going to be big. I know Facebook Watch is growing, but IGTV, it looks like there's rumors they might retire it. So the perfectly safe answer for me is that I don't know. I will say that what YouTube would like is to remain the main hub for video content. And what they have said publicly, as compared to like a Netflix or a Hulu or so forth, is that they want to remain free and ad-supported. So they prefer to remain ad-supported. They don't necessarily want to go to a subscription model, but I don't actually know. Snapchat is starting to be a thing, and absolutely nobody saw TikTok coming to where it is now. So I don't know. I wouldn't bet against YouTube. They're pretty dominant and pretty scrappy, but I wouldn't bet on them either. Safe answer. Sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. It was really detailed and really actionable. My question, I actually have two. One is, you've mentioned testing quite often, but I mean, I think it would depend on how big your campaign is, but how long of a testing period did you kind of do for this particular one? And then the second one is, now that you mentioned slightly about Instagram, what do you think about connecting that Instagram platform to other social platforms and Google, and then is there any connection to that?
Oh, great questions. I'll answer the second one first because it's easier. The process that I gave you earlier, connecting your LinkedIn to your Facebook, I just use the Facebook logo. Instagram is owned by Facebook, and it's the same ad platform in the back. So just go for it. Just choose your Instagram placements rather than Facebook placements. You can use exactly that process. So hopefully that helps. And yes, I think you should do it. For the first question I get this question a lot. How long should I test something for? This answer is going to frustrate you. You should test it until you get statistically significant data. If you're, I know, you want me to say like a week or something. In this case, we were able to test in a very short time because it was very expensive and it was a buy across Canada. So we had enough data very, very quickly to make some decisions. If your budget is smaller, you have to allow yourself enough time to run it longer. Patience is everything. There's no point in rushing a test because you want it to be over and you want your results. Your results will be muddy and noisy. So establish whatever statistical significance you think is appropriate. I like to work with 95 plus. Make sure that you're measuring something that actually makes sense, if it's a question that you actually can answer with the media that you're answering, and then go from there. Sometimes your budget won't be as satisfactory as you need it to be. That's okay. Everything that we have to do has to be statistically significant. Otherwise, you're just getting sort of Carl Sagan's sticky data.
Hi, thanks for the great presentation, really informative. You talked a little bit about linking your platforms together, and I'm just kind of wondering about when you're doing that and you're modeling that out, do you use any third-party platform tools or anything to really draw those clear connections so that you can communicate that to a client, but also be able to kind of track all these different interactions?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So for those with budgets not as high as we might hope, you don't necessarily need a third-party tool, but you have to agree that there will be little gaps everywhere, right? So if it's in the Google ecosystem, you can link your YouTube, your Google My Business, your analytics, your Google Ads all together, and you just follow the steps in their support pages. Same thing with Facebook and Instagram. They're already linked in the back end, so you can see everything. Now when you're starting to go, in terms of linking from everywhere, if you can invest in something like DV360 or the Google Marketing Platform or HubSpot or some other CRM, fine. If you have that investment, it's very, very worthwhile to do. But I'm gonna say something now, because a lot of us have been a little bit, I think, mesmerized by data and by the amount of data we can get. When I stop on my way into work in the morning at a Starbucks and I get a coffee, am I doing it out of habit? Am I doing it because I got a coupon? Am I doing it because it's cold out and I want a hot drink? Am I doing it because I happen to recognize Starbucks, even though there's slightly better coffee across the street? Until we all get chips in our heads, which I promise you is actually coming, we're not going to be able to parse out every single determining factor in every single decision that people make. So we have to agree that there's going to be some gray areas out there that we're never going to be able to answer these particular questions. What I can do in terms of reporting out to clients, very, very important, is show when someone interacts with an ad. So not just someone saw this ad somewhere, maybe 70% viewability, it was hidden behind whatever, and then they went to a store. That is not solid data. What is solid data is someone saw an ad, clicked on it, saw the location, and then drove there. Someone heard an ad on their Vyse app and then decided to get directions. They changed what direction they were going in, right? All of these are directional. They tell us that people are interacting with our media, and it's a very good chance that once someone has done that, they have gone into the store after. But we never take that as a single point of truth. We take the single point of truth as revenue. Did they go into a store? Can you see an uplift in sales from it? Okay? Did I scare everybody by saying there's going to be chips in our heads? I'm sorry. No? I think that's, oh, no, wait, sorry.
How do you build?
Oh.
Is it on? Yes, it is. How do you build in incrementality testing?
Ooh, yeah, great question. Okay. I'll use Google as an example. So incrementality, for anyone that is not necessarily comfortable with that, I'm talking about store visits. And you never want to say that people would only have gone into the store if they saw my ad. Some people are just going to go in anyway. So you start with your timing. You have a look at your day parting, and you can actually see when someone went in, and you want to reduce it down to one day. So I don't ever want to go to a client, particularly a fast food client, and say, they saw my ad a week ago, and now a week later they went into a restaurant. That doesn't make any sense. That's not how we buy fast food. So I want to reduce it down to one day, and then I want to take an average store visit over time. Then you see your incrementality on top. Some platforms will do this for you. Twitter is a really good partner for this. Pinterest is a really good partner for this. Google, I have to do it manually, but it's fine. Facebook, not the greatest partner for this, unfortunately. Not super, super transparent. Honestly, that's not really their brand promise. So you want to make sure that anywhere you have incrementality that's possible, use it if you can, but highlight to your clients or to whomever you're reporting to what you're actually talking about. Are you looking at gross? Are you looking at incremental? How are you measuring what this is and whether or not this is valuable for their business? Very good question. We got in the weeds a little bit, you guys. I love it. All right, well, thanks very much for everything. Enjoy the rest of the conference.